So, since I used an extra minute, I can use a little bit more of it to make it real easy. I don't have to actually introduce anyone today because you all know her. It's Charlie. She's our I have a remote for you.
Oh, good. Tell me how to use it.
That's all you need unless you want to point it out.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you.
And that's the, and I'll get out of your way.
Should I come over here? No, I can't. Okay. All right. So I've been talking with you guys, quite a few of you, about Guatemala, and you've been very gracious to listen to me, and now I get to tell all of you about Guatemala. So I'm really excited about it. So the arrow goes, hey, yeah, okay. So this last January, I was fortunate enough to go to Guatemala with the Travis Manion Foundation. The Travis Manion Foundation is supported by the Navy SEAL Foundation. Their community is the military, and they support survivors who have lost loved ones in the course of their journey. So this is all of us. There were 24 of us, and out of the 24, 22 of us were survivors. 2 were staff folks, and where there were siblings, kids, spouses, and parents. So it was a broad representation of the group. This is one of the missions that the Travis Manion Foundation believes in. We empower veterans and families of fallen heroes to develop character in future generations. And their tagline is, if not me, then who? And they're really inclusive and really hands-on. We built a house for a homeless family. So that's what we did. We were there for a week. And I was drawn to this because the week that we were there, 2 things. It's the kind of thing that I knew Kevin, so those of you that may not know, I lost my son, Kevin Ebbert, who's a Navy SEAL in Afghanistan about 6 years ago. So it's definitely the kind of thing that Kevin would do. And it was over his birthday week. And for those of you that know folks that have lost loved ones, and especially children, I think is hardest for parents. There are trigger dates, and birthdays are definitely one of them. So it was one of those. Let's try this as a coping mechanism, so we don't fall apart. And I might cry, so I apologize for that. So our family was Alex, Josephina, and their daughter Katrin, and they are. We were able to meet them through a video. They're a family in Guatemala, and what you're looking at here is Josefina and her daughter sitting in front of what they called home. The picture on the right is what their home looked like. Alex is 27, Josefina's 26, and their daughter is 2. And when we were there, she was pregnant with their second child, about 3 months pregnant. He builds fireworks, which is pretty popular in that area, that part of Guatemala. We were just outside of Guatemala City in San Raimundo, and he makes $54 a week, which translates to about $2,800 a year. So definitely, they're considered homeless and definitely at the bottom of the socioeconomic scale. And they're chosen by their pastor and local churches, who partner with Casas for Christo, and I'll talk more about Casas later. They're basically the organization that Travis Manion partners with, and they have history, they have relationships, they go in the country, they have all the infrastructure, and it makes it really easy for the foundation to partner with them, and they also know that the folks that are getting served are deserving because they're vetted. And this is a little bit more about how they live. So it's not uncommon to outdoor, very outdoor. This is, oh, there we go. So that's a kitchen. And they do a lot of outdoor cooking, and it's pretty typical. say more about Casas, like I said, but right now I want to share a couple of things, just because it'll give you some foundation. It's pretty typical in second and third world countries for one of the most stable organizations within the social network of the country is to work with churches. You know, governments as we know them go, and political swings back and forth. And the other, so that's one of the reasons that Casas works with the churches. One of the reasons. The other thing that I found out specifically about Guatemala is that there's a caste system, and there's a lot of disparity between the very few of the haves between them and the have-nots. And the families that Casas serves and that Travis Manion in turn serves are in the bottom rung of the caste system, and they're mostly indigenous people. They typically live on the hillsides. They're descendants of the Mayans. They're usually not well educated, and it's pretty difficult for them to rise out of that. The other thing that I wanted to say is that this is very typical. We saw this everywhere. This type of housing. So, sign of hope. When a family is identified to receive a Casas house, this sign is called a sign of hope, and it's posted on a post near the property. And it identifies that the process has started to gain the permits and permissions in country for them to receive a Casa house. And our family, it takes a while, and for our family it took just over 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's, you can pass it around. So let me go back for a minute. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, so the houses are actually given to the women, and that's on purpose, because 99.99% of the time, women will be stable, they'll stay in the home, they'll raise the children, whereas the men go off, they work, and one of the things that we heard about was a story about unintentional consequences that happened. It wasn't the goal of Casas. They've been doing, again, I'll tell you a little bit, they've been doing this work for a number of decades. But it wasn't their intention for this, their goal was to provide houses. But the unintentional consequence that they discovered was after they heard about this woman, they provided a house, and then they heard the backstory. Well, this woman, her husband left to go to Guatemala City to work and never came back. He abandoned the family. She had 2 children under 7. And she's living on the property in the similar shacks that we just saw. And her brother-in-law would come over and just use her whenever he wanted to because she wasn't good for anything else. That was the mentality. And the family, the village would turn a blind eye. So she worked with her pastor to get a job, which is pretty unheard of, and she earned enough money that while the kids were in school, she could rent one room where they all stayed. So she abandoned the family land where she was living in, and she did this, and she was identified to receive a house. Sometimes it takes, like I just said, about 2 years before you can actually get one. She got a house, she moves back onto the property. Now, if her brother-in-law even steps on her property, the family and the village will stone him to death. So it's pretty black and white. And it's not because of anything other than she has now risen to a higher caste. And they take that socioeconomic definition or status very seriously. You just don't interact with other members outside your caste, which was pretty interesting. And I don't know any more about that. That's really all I was able to learn. But I find it pretty interesting because the unintentional consequence now is that she has a home. She can live on her family, on her family property. She still has the job. She's able to, have better health and education for her children, and certainly is rising in the world. And then to put it in perspective financially, you know, I told you Alex, our family, he makes $2,800 a year. The receiving a Casa house is equivalent to like receiving $60,000. I mean, it's huge. They're definitely empowered, and because of their tradition to pass down property from generation to generation, this house, as long as it's standing, and some of them have been standing for a number of decades, will continue to help that family and continue to rise. You know, and I think that's pretty cool. So going on, we stayed in San Raimundo, which is like a small town outside of, it's actually a small city outside of, excuse me, Guatemala City. And it was the week the fair was there. So the engineers in the house would be interested to know that that Ferris wheel was tied down with rope and sandbags. Oh. And it went like this. And it's a little hard to see this other photo right here. But that was the nighttime procession, and it's, of course, you know, they make fireworks there, so there were tons of fireworks, and it was a lot of fun. So this is, so again, Casas took care of all of our housing and transportation needs, and on the left here, this, no, you don't want to see that yet. On the left here, this was like bunk style, you know, hacienda. There's a large dining area, and then this is our bus. Our bus was Daniela, cool. And our bus came from Virginia. So here's the thing, and I'm going to go pretty quickly from here on out. But they take these buses when they're deemed no longer safe. Here, they're school buses, and they drive them down there, and they put manual transmissions in them, paint them all up, and that's, you know, and so, yeah, that's what and they were great. We had a good time. Some of us had a better time. We got a little adventurous and got on top, and they thought we were totally crazy Americans. But that was pretty fun. You had to know how to limbo down because the electric wires and the festive flags were pretty big, but it was a lot of fun. Okay, the house. This is the path up to the house. Like I said, these folks live, you know, on the hillsides, and it was about a 5 to 6% grade. We had all of the material delivered, which was great, but we packed in and out all of the tools. The materials are chosen for the climate. You know, it's wet there. It was all treated. Conditions, the concrete is filled with rebar because of conditions locally. There's active volcanoes and lots of earthquakes. And I'm going to start going faster. The property, I don't know if you can see it. It's hard to see, but so they spent about 2 years preparing the property because again, it's on the hillside. So they had to dig it out. And this is the retaining wall that they built. This is all by hand, by the way, with just materials on the property. And I don't know if you can see this or not. It's a little tough. But this is about 8 to 10 feet, and then this wall here is a dirt wall, and it's again another 8 to 10 feet. So we had to like dig into the side of the hill to create this path, which was about 60 by 80 feet. It wasn't large. And they had to remove some boulders about the size of beat-up bugs. So they had to remove all of that. So I understand why it took 2 years to do that by hand. That was quite the swap project. Foundation, here we're putting in the foundation, leveling it, and then starting to build it. More foundation build, there's the rebar. So we bucket brigade, the sand, gravel, and concrete up to mixing by hand. And this is all the first day. Again, we've got a pad going, and then about 2/3 of the folks were working on the foundation. The rest of us had a pile of lumber that we were measuring and cutting so we could get all the studs for the walls and then the beams and whatnot for the ceiling. And then we started building the same day, and we had to build the walls on top of one another because there just wasn't enough room. So that was all the first day. And then this is the second day. We have a set foundation, not fully cured, but set enough that we start putting walls up. And now we've got, okay, you can see we've got all the walls up. We're starting to put on siding with the roofs going on. This is some of the, you get to do a lot of different things. Windows, so there's 3 rooms in this house, and there's electricity, no plumbing, outdoor plumbing. And this is just some of the detail work. These are just some shots of the interior. It's kind of a little hard to see because they're dark, but just to get an idea of progress. And then this is the inside of the finished house. And actually that's Brandon. He was just old enough, 18 years old. And he was there with his sister, and they were honoring their dad. But that's pretty cool house compared to the shack, right? Yeah. There's more. So this is the outside. Start to see a little bit of how it comes together. The house is 20 by 16 with a 4-foot porch. You'll see that in a little bit. So the family, these are the sister-in-laws. Their houses were either down the hill or up the hill, and they just thought it was great that we got to help build the house. So by this time, this was the end of the second day, and they were warming up, and I'm leaving out a ton of pictures of playing with the cats and the kids, and so then we finished the house and we had a dedication. And for us, yeah, this was amazing. Everybody got to help. There's a Casa por Christo sign there, and then we had the plaque that listed everybody, and so Kevin's up there with everybody else that we honored. And this was okay. So some of the stuff that we got to do. Everybody donated in our party between $30 and $50 US, and it was enough to purchase this bed, blankets, a ton of kids' clothes, a bunch of toys, food, corn, rice, beans, candy for the kids. It was pretty cool. And then we also purchased an eco filter with 2 years worth of filters, just to help. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. This is the front porch. This is all of us gathered around, and the family sitting there. This is David, the ED of Casas, and we are presenting the house. And part of the presentation of the house is that we go up and we talk to the family. We each tell them about why we're there and who we're honoring, and we give them an 5x7 photo, and that this is Josefina receiving all of those. And it's not uncommon at all to come back years later and still have those photos displayed in the house. So there's our family. You get to see Alex and Josefina and their little baby, and in front of their front door that locks. So they have a house for the first time in their life. And the last thing that I wanted to say about this is that this is maybe a lot to read. But Casas por Christo is a organization that started in '93. They've built over 5,000 houses in Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic. David, I showed you, he was the ED. He's been doing this work actually growing up because his parents were missionaries. And one of the things that they will do is that they'll follow up 3 to 6 months after you build your house. They want to keep you connected with your family. If you want, you can go back after a year and check in and visit your family. The cost is $8,500 for a house. Casas will take care of housing, food, transportation for $175 a person for the entire time you're there. We were there for 8 days. It took 3 days to build the house. And the team, you need at least 15 folks. You can see why. 25 is great. You can just knock it out. We can partner with other teams if we want to. I inquired about Rotary, and I'm not quite sure how that works. I have to maybe approach it from the Rotary side and see if there's somebody locally, but we would certainly have a partner that is knowing and can support this effort if we were interested in doing it year after year with Casas. And Casas is faith-based. However, my experience was really positive. They say grace before meal, and basically that was the extent of it. So I didn't I didn't feel like there was anything that would prevent us from partnering with them. And the reason I'm sharing this with you guys is because the World Community Service Committee has agreed to donate the remainder of our $2,400 budget this year toward a house, and I'll be taking on the responsibility of fundraising the rest of it for next year, and hopefully we'll have a project where we can actually participate and go in country. So if you guys are interested, keep me in mind. No, and that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't asked her yet, but if you have questions, stay after and Charlie will answer them. And also, just to cut a couple things, normally we give you a wheelchair certificate. You don't get one, you get to be Rotarian of the Week.
Yeah.